Good evening. I'd like to bring the Simsbury Board of Education regular meeting, March 26, 2013, to order. And with that, we will have public audience. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the board may do so. Please state your name and address if there's anyone interested. Seeing none, we do have a second public audience at the end of our meeting. With that, we will move on to board and administrative communications. So we will start with Kristen.
Okay, well, Battle of the Bands was on Friday, and I thought all the bands were great. And then on March 28th to 30th, First Robotics has regionals at the Connecticut Convention Center. And then spring sports are also now in season, and I know track has its first meet on Thursday. And on Sunday, crew competed in a rowing machine competition and won in the first girls, second girls, and coxswain division. And then on April 8th is a jazz concert at the high school, and April 9th is the end of the marking period. And then a few weeks ago, Mrs. Tedone brought myself along with Patrick and Jacob to Cabe Day on the Hill, which I thought was very interesting. And we got to hear people such as the governor speak, and we got to talk to our senator and representatives about things going on. And especially there's a bill that they're thinking about putting through that will affect pay to play. So we got to speak to them personally about that, which I thought was very interesting.
And you got interviewed also.
Yeah, I also got interviewed.
What was the question that you were asked about?
They asked me about the governor's speech.
And your comment?
I have to remember it. I thought what he was saying, I think he really needs to, I think I said something about how he had to take into consideration all the towns and really what all the measures will mean and what it will actually be doing. Looking at all sides of it.
Good. And we have our two other students here, Patrick and Jacob. I'd like to ask you your thoughts on Day in the Hill, because you two also were very active that day.
It was a great day. We got to meet with all of our legislators. As Kristen pointed out, we got to meet with Senator Whitcoast, Representative Hampton, and I did actually get to ask the governor a question. So he was very open, and I think that helped a lot. He took lots of questions from the audience, and he stayed with us for about 40 minutes. And he answered lots of questions about education as best as he could, so I thought it was very encouraging to see him.
Good. Patrick, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, it was a great day altogether. It's great that the governor stayed for as long as he did. And Representative Hampton took us on the House floor, actually, and we kind of got to see what our local representatives do in the House, and then they introduced us, and so it was a good day in general. It was a good opportunity to actually discuss real issues with our legislators as opposed to just like a meet and greet basis like it normally is when you do it.
And you also had the opportunity to meet with Representative Andy Fleshman, who was co-chair of the Education Committee. So that was good, and I understand you exchanged emails also, so you thought you might have more questions coming. So good, very good. So it was a good day overall. Good, thank you, Kristen. Susan.
Nothing tonight.
Todd.
I don't remember, it was a couple weeks ago, I'm not sure how many weeks ago it was, but I just want to mention that I went to the Unified Theater presentation at the high school, and it's one of the most amazing things that I know that we do in the junior high school and the high school, and highly recommend next year people going as well. It's just it's a wonderful thing. I know my daughter's been involved in it, and it's great for her, and I think everybody did a great job. Everybody did a great job. So I just wanted to mention that.
Good, thank you. And we'll put that on our calendars for next year. Sorry.
All set, Lydia?
Chris.
Nothing, Lydia.
Tom.
Just one thing I'd like to mention is we do have so many wonderful things going on here in Simsbury Public Schools. The one thing that my son came home and told me about today was the high school, the World War II veterans, speaking to him at the junior class. It really got a kick, really connected for him. I just thought that was a really neat experience that doesn't always happen.
That's nice. That's very good. Tara.
I'm good, thanks.
Erin.
I do. I have two things. The first thing I would like to draw your attention to is the technology brochure that's in your folders. I know you've got a lot in your folders tonight, but this is the second annual technology conference that John C. L. Twinnick and about 25 to 35 different teachers presented at last Friday. Again, professionally done, teacher presenters at all of these sessions. All of the teachers, kindergarten through 12th grade had the opportunity to participate. just a great way to get teachers engaged in technology. So again, for your, to look through and to see the kinds of opportunities that teachers got to pick from last Friday afternoon.
That's great. I'm going to go back on that. I do have something.
Yes, Tara.
On March 17th, Neil Sullivan and I went to the DAR Award Assembly. The Daughters of the American Revolution, and they submitted an application to have Richard Curtis, our history teacher, our Simsbury High School department chair, history teacher, Teacher of the Year for the state of Connecticut for the DAR. And he's still in the running for the national award. They have not heard back from that yet, but it was a great presentation at the Eno Memorial Hall. And there's a wonderful contest that they run for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that we should probably get our kids in, because there were no Simsbury kids in the award center, and I know we could have some if we played.
Right.
It's a cool. The question this year was the most interesting person, unknown hero of the Revolution, of the American Revolution, and there were some really interesting award winners. But Rich Curtis was a well-deserving award-winning teacher in our district, and we should be proud of him.
Very good.
And we'll be recognizing him some point.
Bring them to a board meeting.
Board
later
meeting.
on.
Yeah,
Right.
that's great. Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
Good.
So I do have something.
Please
Yes.
continue. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
I do. It seems to be the night for Simsbury High School tonight. So I do have something that I want to share with you. I have a science teacher here from Simsbury High School, Sue Kaczynski, and a student, Margot. And I didn't catch your last name, Margot, but we'll introduce you formally in just a minute. So this is Margot Reed. So what I want to tell you about is a partnership that we have with Brandeis University, and it really was developed through Sue and her daughter Melissa, who's a professor at Brandeis University. And we've been doing this for about 4 years, where students have the opportunity through 2 trips, one in the fall and one in the spring, to go to Brandeis and really engage in state-of-the-art technology laboratories, biology laboratories, a variety of different opportunities for kids. And to top it off, this year in January, Susan was asked to accompany her daughter to Los Angeles is where you are, right, to present in front of the Brandeis National Committee to talk about the work that they're doing, this partnership between high school and college, and really getting kids engaged in the sciences around it. And Susan had the opportunity to really share the kind of work that she's doing with the students and the experiences that kids have. Unfortunately, her daughter wasn't able to be here. She's presenting again down at Virginia Beach tonight. But I did ask Susan to come tonight and tell us a little bit about what's happening. I thought you might be really interested in that. Another opportunity for students to get involved and to learn more about the sciences. And she was able to get Margot to come, and hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit from Margot about her experience from her trip in the fall. So Susan, if you could just talk a little bit about your work with your daughter and how exciting this is for students at Simsbury High School.
I first thank you for coming tonight. You said this whole idea came as just really a brainstorming session between myself and my daughter one day. She is a professor there at Brandeis, and we had talked about how nice it would be if we could do something to connect the high schools with the colleges. There seems to be a gap there. And the more we talked, the more we thought, well, we'll work on a program. And so the two of us worked that summer together in and out of the lab. Brandeis has opened their facility to us, not just to the high school students, but also to any teachers that want to go down and work during the summer with them on this program. So we worked on this program together and came up with an idea, and we piloted it the first year. Simsbury High School was the first school to participate in their outreach program, and it has now evolved. There is about 6 to 10 schools that are now involved in this particular project at both the high school level and the elementary level. So we really are kind of leading the way in that particular case. Margot's going to tell you a little bit about her experience back in December, but I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the experiences that we've had over the course of the last 3 years too. One of the nicest and most effective parts of this program is the fact that the Brandeis professors and the TAs that are in Brandeis that are working on this project will get in contact with us about 2 weeks before we have our field trip out at Brandeis and ask us what curriculum or what piece of the curriculum we're working on, and then they will custom that particular activity according around what we're doing at that time. For instance, in December of this year, we happened to be working on molecular geometry, so they sent us a reading for the students to prep with, and it was based on just that, molecular geometry and intermolecular forces, and so the whole program revolved around that. They will allow us to visit research labs, and so they see active research going on. They also have a social hour where we're able to meet with some of the Brandeis students and talk to the Brandeis students about their experience. If the students are interested, they can go for a visit throughout the campus. They can see any of the technology, so on and so forth. And I will tell you that their science department is state-of-the-art. I know I'm a little prejudiced because my daughter's there, so forgive me. But 4 years ago, when we visited Brandeis, they had the old labs and the old facilities, and they have renovated everything, right down to having 3D molecule builders. They have this fabulous 3D lab that they bring the students into, and they all put on their 3D glasses, and molecules come out of the sky, and they work with them with their hands in virtual reality. Anything that Brandeis has is open to us, and so it's been an experience for me as a teacher, and I hope it's as rewarding to the students. And I thank certainly Mr. Sullivan for being so supportive, and certainly Mrs. Murray for being supportive of this particular program. And California was the most rewarding experience I've had in a long time, to be able to sit in front of a panel of people that were so invested in the sciences, and people from 25 years old right through 85 who just wanted to know what they could do to help us. Can they fund us? Can they be part of the program? Can they visit our school? Can they see more about it? Again, I thank you for that piece too. I just can't wait to maybe participate in it again. It really was one of the highlights of my career, for sure. And being able to go with my daughter too didn't hurt. Okay, so Margot, would you like to speak for a few minutes, and then I can fill in if we.
Hello, my name is Margot Reed, and I'm a junior in Miss Kaczynski's AP Chemistry class. Recently, Miss Kay and I accompanied a number of chemistry pupils up to Brandeis University. As a student with an affinity for math and science, I thought it would be a great opportunity to explore our college campus and sit in on a class. But our visit was so much more than that. We were treated in time in lab, which was an invaluable experience with all the advanced technology, including a 3D printer, which Ms. Kay mentioned. This was my absolute favorite part, because we were not only able to see, but also work with the 20 amino acids that are formed into proteins and categorize them. In the end, we each got to take one of them home. I chose cysteine, which is this. Which, other than methionine, is the only amino acid that contains sulfur, which is the yellow. It's very pretty. It's also one of the prettiest ones. Our lab professor, Dr. Kaczynski Collins, aka Dr. KC, was very welcoming. In our fly lab, we observed the effects of carbon dioxide on the activity of fruit flies. Unlike my other college visits, Dr. Casey offered us a personal behind-the-scenes experience, which is something as a young woman who is interested in math and science made a world of difference. We were taken into all the lab classrooms, which, by the way, are named according to the traditional Harry Potter classes. So we were in Ravenclaw, and even got to feed some frogs. I think this trip was invaluable because it not only allowed me to see myself in a college environment, but also helped me realize that I'd be comfortable pursuing a course in the studies of science. As my dad, the engineer, always prods me, Margot, what about math and science as a career? I guess now I'll have to respond to that. Yes, it is a distinct possibility. Thanks to my visit at Brandeis and my wonderful chemistry teacher, Miss Kaczynski.
Margot, I think someone else is with you too tonight. Is your mom?
Oh, yes, and this is my mom, Peggy Reed.
Okay, so I'll just say one more thing about our experience. Thank you, Mark. That was wonderful. The funding that we received from Brandeis is something that I should at least remark on, and that is that we pay just a minimal fee for the bus transportation out to Brandeis. Brandeis picks up all the other funding. So that in itself is
huge.
Wonderful. I don't know.
Great. It is nice. Thank you.
Thank you
Susan.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That
That was
very
very
good.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margot.
Good.
I think that's all I have for today.
That was pretty good.
I'd like to go before Erin at the next meeting. I should say before Margot. Just one element to share with you this evening, and that's that our the ERCM, who is the agency that we've selected to complete our security audit, is here for their first visit in Simsbury this week. So they're in the midst of that first visit, meeting with different representatives from our district, and that's going well. So we look forward to the hearing about the recommendations that the audit provides.
Burke.
Just wanted to give a quick update on the capital improvement plan process. Last week I had the opportunity to attend a Board of Selectmen meeting where they were finalizing their plan and make sure that they were clear on the board's 6-year projects. Our one project for next budget year that would actually be voted on would be the Squadron Line Boiler project. And tomorrow evening, the Board of Finance will be hearing about that CIP, so I'll be attending that as well. Keep you up to
It's
date.
very posted, up to date. Good, thank you. Matt.
Yes, one item I wanted to provide an update on the budget process and where we were as we kind of make final preparations for the public hearing on April 9th. When we had presented to the Board of Finance, we talked about ongoing conversations, recent conversations with both the police chief and Mary Glassman about the possibility of splitting the cost of an additional school resource officer. In our initial budget conversations, we had talked about trying to obtain the funding for that through grant opportunities. Those opportunities have not availed themselves to date. We'll still look for those opportunities if they do move forward. But as we continue to monitor our financial unknowns, chiefly the insurance premium share, and what the district cost will be there. Burke attended a meeting just earlier today with Bob Lindbergh. That information was favorable. We feel that we'll be able to reduce that line item in the budget by about, I'm going to hit close, I think, to we're talking about $63,000 or so, which would enable us to have a line item for our share of an additional resource officer without going above the stated 1.89. And I think that would really go a long way in enhancing that program within our school system. We have a resource officer at the high school. This would allow us to have a dedicated resource officer at the middle school, but also to reach out to the elementary schools for programs on drug awareness, bullying, school climate, and really become a resource that could evolve and really increase the collaboration between the police department and the school system. So we're really pleased to report that tonight, and we'll continue to monitor some of these unknowns, but we'll have that in a more formal sense in the public hearing process, but wanted to share that we plan to have that in there, but also make clear that it does not raise us above the 1.89 that the Board of Finance moved forward at the last meeting.
Good, that's important to know. Thank you, Matt. And for me, just brief communications, it's still a lot of testifying. I testified a week ago again before Education Committee about an act concerning some revisions to the education reform bill that was passed last year. So we are concluding, or should I say, the Education Committee and the committees of the State Capitol are concluding hearings, and we'll be moving into other processes now with bills that are proposed between them. So again, this is a very busy time up at the state legislature, also in D.C., and I also sit on another committee that Governor Malloy has appointed me to, the P20 Council, and I'm going to use Susan and Margot with that. That council is from pre-K to college, and that council is comprised of educators from preschool right through college to business community leaders. And a lot of what has been talked about in this P20 Council has been that high school to college connection, and how do you align it with curriculum and in areas that you have obviously been doing at Brandeis and out in California. So this is one area too that is the Education Committee has also had testimony from those from high school, from college, about that connection of the pieces, that how do we become more valuable when students are entering into college, and how do we connect what is going to be heading down the path with a lot of Common Core and a lot of positions in that education reform bill. So with that other piece, I just would like to say thank you to our students. We should be very proud of our students. We've got Jacob and Patrick and Kristen and Margot here. Everywhere we go, you students were given opportunity on Day in the Hill, and Margot had an opportunity to attend Brandeis, and I, for one, am very proud of our students. They represent their high school, Simsbury High School, very well. They represent their community very well, and you students have always been given very high accolades. Whether in press or whether from others, from state capitol to colleges. So, and it's a tribute to the Simsbury High School and actually Simsbury Public School staff for presenting such wonderful students that we are able to present forward. So that is it. And I just have one quick thing. This is from Mr. Herb Newhouser. He is a very avid fan of the basketball team here, and he was very grateful to attend all the games, and he was a retired coach and teacher, and he really enjoyed many of the games of the season. And his final statement is the coaches and teams were a credit to the town of Simsbury and should be noted. So we are noting that, and we thank you, Mr. Newhouser, for being in the stands and supporting our teams. So with that, we'll move on now to recommended actions, and we are at Exhibit 1. And do I hear a motion? Oh, Exhibit 1, here we are. Appointment of Henry James, Assistant Principal. And
Great.
With that,
Thank you,
Mr. Curtis.
Lydia. So I am very pleased to introduce to the board tonight and recommend for approval of the assistant principal position at Henry James, Jeff Pinney. Jeff is here this evening, and you had an opportunity to meet with and interview Jeff before the meeting. And Jeff has been with us for 3 years as a social studies teacher at Simsbury High School, coached numerous sports. Has a teaching background of 9 years, formerly in Massachusetts, where he also had an extensive coaching experience. But Jeff really rose to the top of what was an incredibly rigorous process. We started out with a pool of over 130 candidates for this position. And Jeff did a wonderful job throughout, and I think in his time in the district has certainly earned the respect of not only his students, the families he's worked with, the staff, and certainly the high school administration as well. And we think that Jeff, with his combination of understanding teaching, what good teaching practices are, his commitment to the district, and just great energy and enthusiasm for connecting with people and connecting with students will be a wonderful addition to Henry James. So I would ask that the board consider a motion to recommend him as the hire at Henry James.
Very good. Motion on the table.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Very good. And any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Jeff. We have Brian White, the middle school principal here, and I'd like Brian to say a couple words and then introduce Jeff. And Jeff, the floor is yours.
So it's my pleasure to be here this evening to introduce the new assistant principal. I know we're very pleased with this selection. We think Jeff's going to be a great fit over at the middle school and really an excellent addition to our leadership team. So very happy with the decision this evening, and welcome aboard, Jeff. So take words. Congratulations.
Good.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to Matt and to Neil for bringing me to the district to begin with. It's really been a pleasure to come down here and bring my family down here and part of the Simsbury community, and looking forward to continuing to serve. And I can't tell you how excited I am for that opportunity to continue to be here in Simsbury and get to know the teachers and staff and students and families that make up Henry James from now and for many years to come. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Told him he does not have to stay for the whole meeting.
He has a wrestling bag
That's
with him.
right.
Right.
Good night. Practice to the wrestling bench.
So, good. You're welcome to stay, but we understand.
I'm sure your team's looking for you.
Bye, Brian.
Guys, thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Those kids are- Yeah.
All right, moving on to recommended actions. We are on Exhibit 2, approval of minutes of February 26, 2013. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion, all in favor? Motion passes. We are on to Exhibit 3, approval of minutes of February 26, 2013 meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We are on to Exhibit 4, personnel. And with that, Sue.
Thank you, Lydia. I have 4 personnel recommendations for your consideration this evening. The first is from Mrs. Allison Young, who's requested a non-salaried guaranteed leave of absence for the purposes of child rearing in accordance with our Board of Ed policy. I would therefore recommend that the board move to grant Mrs. Young a non-salaried child rearing leave of absence for the period of April 29th, 2013 through June 30th of 2013 with a guaranteed position upon her return.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second recommendation has to deal with 2 resignations. The first from Selena Kell, Latin teacher at Simsbury High School, and the second from Lisa Varian, special education teacher at Simsbury High School. I would therefore recommend that the Board of Education move to accept these resignations of Selena Kell and Lisa Varian effective June 30th of 2013.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The third recommendation comes from Jacqueline Downs, or Jackie Downs, I rarely call her Jacqueline, a health teacher at Henry James. She is asking to retire after 13 years of service at Henry James in her position as health teacher. I would therefore recommend that the board move to accept the retirement of Jacqueline Downs effective June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
The fourth and final recommendation in this exhibit is from Dan Franzik, math teacher at Simsbury High School, currently at 35 years of service, and he would like to retire at the end of next year, June 30th of 2014. I would therefore recommend that the board move to accept the notice of retirement for Daniel Franzik effective June 30th, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? He will be missed after 35
Great
years.
dedication. And It was
Absolutely.
great to have him in the school district for
Very much so.
a very long time.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are on to Exhibit 5, non-renewal of non-tenured teachers.
That's coming back to me. So in accordance with Connecticut General Statute, local boards of education must vote to non-renew prior to May 1st the contracts of any non-tenured teachers whose positions are influenced by declining enrollment, program changes, or teachers returning from guaranteed leave. So this evening, I'm going to recommend that the board move that the contract of employment for the following staff members be non-renewed for 2013-14 school year, effective June 30th of 2013, and that the superintendent of schools is directed to advise such persons in writing of this action. Just to let the board know, I have met with each one of these teachers personally to let them know the reasoning for this non-renewal. and these have no correlation to performance concerns whatsoever. Okay, so the teachers that are affected by this: Dawn Anstedt, technology teacher at Henry James, .2 of her position will be non-renewed of a 1.0 contract. Kim Brassard, elementary teacher at Central School. Kim Loveland, elementary teacher at Terrifield School, and Kirsten Andrush, family and consumer science teacher at Henry James.
Do I hear a motion? Second? Tom?
I move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
You're hitting me.
Step up and move.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Then we're now on to Exhibit 6, approval of teacher evaluation plan.
And Erin's going to provide
take
just a
this
brief
one.
overview.
Okay.
So you've had the opportunity over the course of the year, Sue and I have presented to you our progress on the teacher evaluation plan that we began back in the beginning of the school year, and we're now at the point where we've put together a draft of our teacher plan to be submitted to the State Department of Education for their review. So I'd like to, Sue and I have worked hard collaboratively in pulling this together, but I'd also like to thank Scott Baker, who's in the audience tonight, principal at Terrifield School, who has worked very closely with us on this. We have a Neil Sullivan as well. We have some other folks on the PGE committee, about 22 people across the district representing teachers, specialty teachers, guidance counselors. We have a variety of different people that have worked hard at pulling this plan together. So it's been a collaborative process. Actually, Jeff Pinney was a very strong participant, and Beth Hennessy is right here on the subcommittee as well. So lots of people working on these. So this is the teacher evaluation plan. I think what we had said in one of our previous presentations, that the administrator plan, we would adopt the state model for the administrative plan. So you've had the opportunity to look at a draft. It's probably had some edits since you've had the opportunity, but the content remains the same. One of the foundational pieces of this teacher evaluation plan that we're really proud of is the Simsbury Public School teaching standards that we have really been utilizing over the last 4 to 6 years of really wanting these to come alive, really thinking about the kind of teaching that takes place in the classrooms. And so we chose to go in the direction of keeping these standards and created our own rubrics in which to assess teacher performance against each one. So you've had the opportunity to look at those as well. So we have a plan to implement this, to actually bring it to faculty in April through principals. We'll bring it during their April faculty meeting. They've seen pieces of it. They did get a presentation back in the fall. They've heard about pieces of it. But this will be an opportunity in April that the whole faculty will see the entire plan. And Scott was really instrumental in putting together a PowerPoint to do that with the faculty. We've also earmarked PD time, professional development time, in May and June to unpack, if you will, this plan with teachers. There's really 2 categories: the teacher standard category, which will be familiar to teachers, which we're really happy about, but there's the other section on student learning outcomes, which we think is going to be a lot more professional development time needed to really get people's understanding around that piece. So we'll be doing that. We also have earmarked time in August as we come back, because there is that summertime piece in between, but to bring people back on board in August. And then we've already looked, Sue, Betsy, and I actually looked at the professional development calendar for the next school year, so that we can devote time in August, in January, and in May to teacher evaluation, so that we can ensure that we have been thoughtful about the implementation, but have also given the kinds of support to teachers as we move through this, and administrators for the first year. So that's a big picture of it. I don't know, Sue, if I missed anything that you want to add.
At all the points that we need to elaborate on this evening.
So at this point, I would ask for the board's consideration to move this plan forward to be submitted to the State Department of Education. And we don't have an actual plan. We are using the state model for the administrative model. So both models will go forward. We don't have to actually submit a model because we're using the state model for administrators, but this plan will be submitted to the State Department of Ed.
And that needs to be done by April 15th.
Yeah, right.
And when will they get back to you?
Well,
Say within a couple weeks.
yes, they said 2 weeks.
Turnaround,
So
right.
Yeah. So 169 districts sending it in on April 15th. So we're hopeful that, and Sue and I have been to a number of.
We're not going to go alphabetical.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, they do offer a rubric to really assess the different elements of the plan, and all along we've been using that rubric to inform some of our decision making and to, make certain that we had the necessary components in the plan that would decrease the likelihood of it turned back to us for revision. Again, that's no guarantee, but it was a good tool for us to use along the way.
Good. And we also have this in our folders?
You do have a copy. I think you have
that,
a newer version of it that you have. This is, although right up until about a half hour ago, I was making some edits to it.
And you presented this to the board, was it last meeting? Or was it 2 meetings
We've done 2 presentations overall.
You've seen all the pieces to it.
You have.
Right.
There should be no surprises, but to see the plan in its entirety is important as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all your work.
I did read through the one that we got on Thursday.
Yes, which is very similar.
It's a phenomenal amount of work you have all put in, so my congratulations to all of you, because I can't even begin to imagine how you assembled everything as well as you did and made it so readable for someone who is not an educator. So thank you.
Good. It's good to hear.
I appreciate
And
that.
in such a short period of time. I mean,
Right.
the state gave us a ridiculous mandate to get this done in a short period of time, and you guys rose to it and did such a great job getting it done. I really thank you very much, and it speaks highly of our town.
Right, and I think what we've said along the way is that, we've been very thoughtful about how we observe teachers, give teachers feedback, and so we believe in this model in the sense of really improving our craft, improving teaching and learning that goes on in the classroom. So some of it will feel very similar to teachers, other parts of it will not. And I think the biggest part that is sort of the elephant in the room is the teacher rating. And that's the piece that we're going to struggle with over time, because at the end, there will be a rating that will be given to every teacher. So that's, I think, a piece that's feeling hard and difficult for teachers, but everybody under the rank of superintendent will be given a rating.
Tenured or non-tenured?
Tenured or non-tenured.
And all over the state.
Yeah.
All over the state.
And moving forward, that will be such an important part of our rollout and principal conversations with teachers, is to listen to questions, listen to concerns, and address those really in an interpersonal style to give us the best opportunity to succeed that we can.
So I absolutely agree with Sue's comment. This is an amazing document, and you can actually read and understand it, which is really a compliment,
Right.
Given that your depth of expertise as far as with regards to the portion of are there any portions of the plan that you're worried about? I mean, in terms of, this is a very detailed plan, which I feel like is going to need to evolve as time goes by and we learn. But I mean,
one piece that I think we all struggle with at this point a little bit is not the standards-based or the teaching standards part, which we're comfortable here. It's the goal setting around the data with the recognition that some of the data will not be available to us when we need to provide the teachers with the final rating. And that makes it a little bit of a difficult process for people to have that conversation based on assumptions.
Limited fact set.
So we'll have to rely on self-assessments of teachers, things we've seen along the way. But I think as we get through year one and those things surface, we have to understand that those will be some struggles we need to work through and then see how to move forward in the future with the plan. But that piece for me, and I know when we've talked to teachers and administrators, sticks out as something that, quite frankly, doesn't make a great deal of sense to people.
Is this something that needs to get updated annually? I mean, is this like once and done, or is this like literally something every year?
I think we can make adjustments. It's a living document. It won't need to be approved, I don't believe, on an annual basis.
Right. We'll share with you any changes that we'll make.
But it's something that we can see as our process moves through, what we can change to make it fit for ourselves better. And certainly those changes will be made with the administrative plan as we're taking the state model year one, essentially because we didn't have the time needed to really frame that out the way we would have liked to, because so much energy was spent on this, which it should have been.
That's right.
To your point, Matt, about not having the data, as we get away from the CMTs and the CAP testing, does that kind of shift how you get the data, and maybe going forward it makes it a little more consequential or sequential, I should say?
The hope is that it's a short-term challenge.
Okay.
have we heard of other districts that have already kind of submitted their non-state plans and whether they've been approved and like how deferential the state
No,
is?
they had actually said that they had a rolling window for towns to submit them, and a couple of towns that I know of submitted theirs. It took a significant amount of time to get some feedback for them, but they basically shut that window and said we don't want to get any until April 15th.
Oh, okay.
How concerned are you about the number of hours that this is going to add to our administrative time and our teacher time? I mean, that's a
Well, I
big
think that's
concern,
what we
isn't it?
shared with you, I think,
Right.
last time. I think that is going to be something that we're going to monitor closely. We're going to pay, very close attention to. It will be time intensive, especially the first year, because a lot of it will be just getting through the system and the structure of what it means to have that beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year conference. What kind of evidence and data do you gather over the course of the year? What is a self-assessment? I know Sue and Scott have been working on forms. So this is, you don't have the forms in here yet, but now we have to create forms that align with this. We also have to get a data management system to house all this information so that we can ensure that we have it all in one location. And Sue's going tomorrow to look at some of the options.
Some of the possible vendors.
Still concerned.
So there's a long
The short answer.
Yes.
The short answer is yes. But again, we have to take a step back and look at that thoughtful implementation. So are there ways that we could recapture some time and refocus the time that we do spend on evaluation, because it does take an enormous amount of time, but to refocus that time on having those face-to-face conversations with teachers about their practice, because we know at the end of the day, that's what really makes a difference. And less time completing a form and more time giving that face-to-face feedback.
And that's one element of our current plan is there is quite a bit of narrative writing on both sides of the teacher
and
the evaluator, and we hope to minimize that, and as Sue stated, really value the conversation and the interaction between administrator and teacher around feedback.
The constant it does jump out at you, kind of the level of involvement and discussions and the number of evaluations. The document actually does a nice job, I think, of documenting that and saying, hey, it's a lot of work here.
And again, we'll have to live with it. We'll have to see what adjustments that we need to make accordingly. And then we'll be informing you about that process along the way. But, we appreciate the compliments, and I think it speaks to the large amount of collaborative work that's been done with teachers across the district, and having their input, having their eyes, and having those candid conversations to really make a plan that's alive and well, that it's affecting instruction in our district.
And the administrators as well have looked through this, because a lot of it falls, it's equally falling
Absolutely.
on them. And they feel comfortable with what you've put forth as well.
Absolutely. And they've been members of that PG, the committee overall.
And we've worked closely with the SEA, with the union, teacher union as well, to ensure that there's a voice. So we've had everybody that we need at the table, and we'll begin to roll it out. We'll hear more when we roll it out starting in April. And I've done it, Sue and I did it with the high school department supervisors last week. I met with the middle school department supervisors yesterday, so we're really trying to ensure, and every time we talk, we think of something new. So we just keep taking and keeping notes.
Maybe you can talk a little bit on because this is one of the big areas, and to answer for you, Tara, the PEAK committee, the Performance Evaluation Advisory Committee, is where a lot of this came from 2 years ago, and you can get online with the Connecticut State Department of Education and see a lot of the recommendations. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the implementation and full implementation of when this will be moving forward.
Well, this will be, there's 4 categories that make up the plan, and the PEAK committee believes that there's been some question around implementation, and that the belief set is that the power in teacher evaluation are the 4 categories that they've set forth, in that you're looking at teacher practice, you're looking at stakeholder feedback, you're looking at student data, student learning outcomes, as well as whole school outcomes. So there was no consideration to split the plan up. So it's full implementation of the 4 categories, and we're choosing to move forward with it in September with our faculty to put the full plan forward.
And And this is a lot of credence to Simsbury Board of Education here and to the work that you've done, because a lot of the districts, as Erin and Sue had mentioned, are in some of the beginning stages, and this is something that we talk about also at the state level, that we over the years have always been observing this and looking at this, and we are really moving forward with this, and we do have a plan that has been talked about at a level. So I give you a lot of accolades and credit for administration and for student staff for putting forward a plan. So.
Hey, Lydia, I also echo the great work that was done, and for me, I started with trepidation that this could become process versus substance, and I think you really have found the substance in this. I give you all credit for that, and I also do have trepidation as to how much time is involved, but the reality is that increasing performance only comes with increasing discipline, right? That's just a kind of a standard of getting better and better, and that unfortunately, the reality of it takes time. And this process clearly reflects that. It's going to take a lot of time, but I'm convinced that the benefits are going to come out for the students as well as for the teacher in terms of the amount of feedback that they're going to get. And the second thing I just wanted to highlight, I think people in the public hear teacher evaluation, but it's vague as to what that really means. And I just like on page 32, the circle that just describes the 4 components of teacher evaluation. And that is 45% student growth and development as measured, 10% stakeholder feedback, 40% observation of teacher performance and practice, and 5% is whole school student learning. So I think it's important to keep in mind that, because I know one of the concerns is this is not a balanced process, and I'm convinced it actually is a very balanced process between individual feedback as well as data, focus on the student as well as on the teacher. So.
Just to add one maybe final comment. A couple years ago, Erin, we got together and started the charge to revise the Simsbury teaching standards and brought teachers together at the table. One of the things they talked about is that they want feedback. And they want better feedback. And one of the things our administrators realized was they need to get better at feedback. So the core of what we're talking about is sound, to your point.
Right.
And I think it's a matter of really looking at the feasibility and building our structures to support this and having those conversations. So certainly appreciate everybody's feedback here tonight.
And we certainly have a great place to start with the incredible teaching faculty that we have in this district.
True.
And that will be a great basis to start these very exciting conversations and continue those exciting conversations about their instruction.
So the process is you're asking for, in a moment, right? You're going to ask us
Yes.
to vote to submit this to the state,
Yes.
and then the state formally needs to acknowledge and accept it.
Yes.
Correct.
That's
and they
correct.
can revise. They can ask us to do revisions or just say go.
Correct, Tommy.
And in theory, we'll know something.
We will know something.
2 weeks.
We should know something. After
as-
April 15th, we will.
Right. I think they're
So if
targeted.
changes are made, do you come back to us?
We'll
don't-
inform,
yeah,
we don't
can
have to.
inform
We
them,
don't
but
have to
need
vote on it
formal
again,
approval
though.
of- or a vote.
We
no.
just, okay.
We don't anticipate a lot.
You guys are so
Right. Good. Okay.
I know.
Very good plan.
So I would ask the board to move that the Board of Education approve this teacher evaluation and professional growth plan to be submitted to the State Board of Education.
So moved. Second.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much so. Looking forward to continued discussion, conversation on this. We're now on to adoption of volunteer policy, Exhibit 7.
So Lydia, the past Board of Ed meetings, we've had our first and second readings of this policy, and tonight we look to recommend a motion that the Board of Education adopt volunteer policy number 1212, effective August 28, 2013.
Very good. Your motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, motion passed. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We're now on to Exhibit 8, cancellation of April 9th meeting, and That is
I guess I would, I want to say one thing about the volunteer policy. I do think that it was brought to our attention by parents and a concern and discussion. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact the Board of Ed, because it is a little bit complicated and it's something very new that we're putting through. It's for the health, safety, and welfare of our students, but there are your teachers, your principals would be happy to explain it. And so you should definitely take the time to call and find out more about it if you have questions.
And to that point, Tara, next steps, which will be important for the district, are kind of a reach-out communication plan around this. So we'll be pushing out some information to people to educate them on this.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll be canceling, due to the Board of Ed budget presentation to the Board of Finance for the capital and operating projects on April 9th. We are recommending to cancel the April 9th Board of Education meeting because we will all be there in attendance, and that is that night that we will be presenting both operating and capital projects. And that will be at 7:30 at the high school, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, 7:30.
High school, 7:30 at the high school.
Amphitheater.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, motion passes. All right. 7:30, April 9th at the high school for the hearing. Thank you. We are now on to information and reports. Exhibit 9, the Connecticut Common Core Standards Update.
Great. Thank you.
Alrighty.
We have with us this evening Betsy Gonzalez, Beth Hennessy, who is a language arts consultant at Central School, and Erin are going to present to us on the Common Core state standards and some of the great work we're doing to implement those standards into practice, but most importantly to support teachers in their professional development as we make these changes moving forward. So we thought it would be timely with all the discussion around education reform and how we plan to support this movement with instructional coaches in our budget, that it would make sense to provide a brief report to the board this evening.
All right, thanks, Matt. As Matt said, Betsy is here, and we've invited Beth Hennessy to share some of her perspective along the way. We've had the opportunity over time to talk with you about the Common Core State Standards and the implementation, somewhat of the rationale and the purpose behind them. Our goal tonight is to give you more of a sense of the work that we're doing right now, what we've done, what we're doing, and what we intend to continue to do. So as we look through this, I just want to remind you of the rationale behind the Common Core State Standards. Because of the decline in the U.S. competitiveness with other countries, that was one of the reasons why these were designed. There were high rates of college remediation. Lots and lots of students were heading to college and taking English and or math, again, remediation courses, which was really a great concern. And performance on the NAEP, which is the National Assessment of Educational Performance, that has been done, that it's been pretty flat over a long period of time, 40 years, and in 8th grade. So we've had those results, a little bit of an improvement at the grade 4 level, but significant decline at the high school level. So those were some of the reasons behind the development of the Common Core State Standards, which are national standards that were designed. So as we think about the overview, and we talk about the elevator speech, or how do we talk about the Common Core State Standards to folks? And what we talk about is really three things when we think about the Common Core State Standards. Clarity. Clarity about what is expected of students to learn in each grade level, and the consistency that kids will get, whether they're at one school or another school here in the District of Simsbury, or in the state of Connecticut, or across the country. These are definitely standards that all kids should achieve by the end of each specified grade level. There's really shifts in teaching, shifts in the way in which we teach. It's not just about teaching the content, but it's about how do we engage students in the learning that they're experiencing. How do they become more active in their learning? How do they become more clear about the depth of learning rather than the breadth of what they have to learn? It's really getting much deeper into it. And really thinking for us of how do we connect the learning within our grade levels and across grade levels. So, not only horizontally, but vertically as well. So people are constantly asking, what is the impact that the Common Core state standards have on teaching and learning? And what we continue to say is there's a focus on doing fewer things better. We have spent a number of months and maybe a couple of years of weeding through our curriculum documents and saying, what is it that we really need students to know, be able to do, and understand at every grade level in each content area. And it's not about doing it all, it's about doing a very focused amount of learning with depth. An integrated approach. A lot of times we have worked in silos. This is reading, this is math, this is writing, and really what we're looking at is this integrated approach across content areas. What does reading look like? All kids need to learn how to read, but you also need to learn how to read of what it looks like in social studies, in science, in history, and in different places. So we have to pay attention to that. The other piece that we are committing to, and we believe that are very high leverage, is what we call the instructional core. And I tend to put this up when I talk about the instructional core because it's about the teacher, the student, and the content. It's a triangle. And you can't address one of those without addressing all three. And that's clearly what we're attempting to do with the Common Core state standards. We're looking at the content, we're paying attention, weeding through, and making sure that we have the curriculum, the content that's necessary. We're paying attention to the teacher practices that go along with it. We know there's a lot of professional development, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, of how to engage teachers in delivering this kind of learning for students. And then the kind of work that we ask students to do. And we believe that through this, the work on the Common Core state standards will be much more focused and provide more clarity around the work. So Betsy, we're going to tag team this a little bit, so we'll go back and forth. So I'm going to pass it to Betsy.
So just to remind you, there were 3 key shifts in ELA, which is English Language Arts and Literacy, and that encompasses both reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing. Those shifts address nonfiction reading using evidence from text and text complexity. And these 3 shifts really impact the work of our teachers and also the work of that we're doing as we're preparing our curriculum and our instruction to make sure that our students are career and college ready. They're simple, they're powerful, and they're really at the forefront of our decision making as we really make some careful examinations to our curriculum. The next slide is a great slide that simply identifies what's in, what's out, what's the same, what's different. And if you look at I'll highlight a few things. There's a lot on the slide. But some things that we've had to pay attention to at the elementary level is the fact that we can't just use level text for students' reading instruction. We have to make sure that that's balanced with daily encounters with complex text. So students have opportunities to maybe listen to text read aloud. They may have opportunities to read text on the computer, to work with a partner, to hear from their teacher, because students have to be able to do the thinking where they can analyze pretty sophisticated text, to do some higher level work where they're grounding their thinking in evidence from the text. So while we know some kids are not going to be able to access that text, we have to find ways to scaffold that for students. At the intermediate and secondary level, what that looks like is more nonfiction text and more opportunities for students to read text in the content areas. And that is something that we're emphasizing. And again, it goes back to one of those key shifts that's really just driving our decision making. One of the things that you won't hear from us after next year is the work that we're doing to address the reader-text connection strand that's on the CMT, because it's not just what students' opinions are about things. Everything that they're going to be asked to do has to be grounded and rooted with direct evidence from text. Starts with very simple quoting at the primary level, and it becomes a little bit more sophisticated as students move through that staircase of progression of skills as they work K through 12.
So just as a point of clarity, too, when we talk about text, we're not just talking about textbooks. We're talking about primary sources. We're talking about novels. We're talking about a variety of different opportunities. It's not just simply textbooks that we're asking kids to be looking at.
And as we look at this list, we are not in a state of panic at all. We are doing a lot of this work, and a lot of this work we're doing very well. There are some things that we just want to become more robust. And so we're making some revisions to some of our units, and an example I can give you of that is some nonfiction work that we're doing at the primary grades. We're just making it a little bit more rigorous, a little bit more robust, where students are not just getting the instruction in reading, but they're also having opportunities to apply those strategies and skills that they're learning in science and in social studies.
So just as there are shifts in English language arts, there's shifts in math. And the 3 shifts in math, you can see they're focus, coherence, and rigor. And these are a way in which to look at the opportunities, the learning opportunities that we're giving to students at every grade level. So again, using the standards to help us focus. When we think about coherence, we're thinking about what kids are learning not only in the grade level, but across the grade levels. And really the rigor. What is it that we're asking kids to engage in? Not simply solve a problem. How did you solve the problem? Why did you do it that way? To really think deeply about the math that they're doing. This is a traditional approach. This is a visual that we've used with teachers, is that here were 4 domains that really transcended kindergarten through 12th grade. And one of the examples that's been used, it's like a shopping cart or going down the aisle, and you're taking a little bit here and a little bit there every year, putting it in the cart and doing it, and which has worked over time. But this next visual gives you a better sense of the kind of mathematics, the focus of the expectations of what kids need to know, be able to do, and understand at every grade level, so that by the time they're leaving 8th grade, they're algebra ready. They've really had that opportunity to really develop fluencies and skills and knowledge to prepare them for a very rigorous math program at the high school level. So this is one of the examples around fluencies in kindergarten through 6th grade. And if you think about fluencies, it's about being fast and accurate. It's about really understanding, how you can get this done. It's not simply, it's like a world language. We ask kids to be fluent in a world language. We want them to be fluid with these particular mathematical expectations. So you can take a look at it by the end of 2nd grade or by the end of 3rd grade, add and subtract within 1,000. Multi-digit multiplication by 5th grade. Those are expectations that kids, as they enter the grade, will have opportunities to learn and experience, and when they exit the grade, the expectation is that they will have mastered those so that they can then move on to the next grade. The standards for mathematical practice these are 8 standards. These are not taught in isolation. These cut across every grade level and every math experience that they have. These I call like habits of mind. These are ways in which we expect students to really engage in mathematical thinking, how they think about math, how they apply math, how they solve mathematical problems. And so these are embedded all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. And these are what are expected to be really part of a teacher's toolkit as they engage students in mathematical thinking. So what are we doing around curriculum and professional development? It's when we sit down and we begin to take stock in the work that we're doing. We're working hard at this and really trying to pay attention to how we implement this in a way that's purposeful, that appears as seamless as possible, and isn't causing too much anxiety in regard to change around the curriculum. So what we attempt to do is preserve the curriculum that we've been using, but again, weeding it, adding, and even sometimes changing the placement of it, of whether it's in the fall or in the spring, but really being thoughtful about that. So we've convened a district-wide Common Core State Standards leadership team. Betsy and I are leading that along with some principals, and eventually we'll have teachers part of that as well. We have a K-12 transition team. We've been doing implementing the English language arts and the literacy standards in grades 3 through 6. We've been doing math in kindergarten 1, 2, and 6. We've developed a matrix for English language arts in 7-12. I'll show you that in a few minutes. And we've been aligning our math standards in grades 6 through 12. And we're looking at 6 through 12. That's the standards for really English and language arts, looking at the K-5 and the 6 through 12 sequence is what we're looking at. So professional development has really, what we've been attempting to do is build the capacity of teachers. I go back to that instructional core, helping them better understand the curriculum, understanding their teacher practice, as well as the work that we're asking students to do. So we're looking for ways constantly to ensure a deep understanding of the standards and the implementation of the standards and what they look like in the classroom. So at the elementary level and at the secondary level, we have staff developers that are working with us, kindergarten through 12th grade, from Teachers College. We use our curricular teams at the elementary level, department teams at the secondary level, and we have vertical leader meetings. So I meet, and Betsy we meet together with our different content leaders from the high school, the middle school, and the elementary to ensure that we're having conversations vertically, but also looking at the work that we're doing horizontally as well. So here's a picture.
Betsy's office.
Erin, could you back up for 1 second? Beth's going to give
Oh,
an
I'm
example
sorry.
of some
Yes, she is.
PD that's happening
I skipped right over you, Beth. I'm sorry.
As a language arts consultant in the elementary schools, we've been all the language arts consultants have been working to help teachers build their awareness of the standards, help them implement some of the revised curriculum that Erin is talking about in a PLC, understanding it, and then actually helping coaching in the classroom, putting it into practice, and then also coming back to the PLC and revisiting student work, looking for evidence of the standards. We have a few resources that we've been using. Pathways to the Common Core is written by Lucy Calkins and her crew at Teachers College. This has been a resource that all elementary schools are using in their faculty meetings to understand what the standards say and what that means for teaching. They have a great video that goes along with it because you can then see what the teaching looks like, because that's what we're working on with teachers. Here's the standard, how's your teaching going to change? Does it need to change? So this is a great resource. Betsy also bought for us Common Core's English Language Arts in PLCs at work. And this has been a fabulous tool as a language arts consultant to help me come up with strategies and tools to help unpack the standards with teachers. So I've been using that a lot. And of course, the teachers need the standards. We have a Common Core binder of standards that, as Erin says, we need to make it a living, breathing document. We pull this out a lot. We reference the Common Core new aligned standards in the units of study. We go back to this. We talk about their classroom practice. So we're really trying to implement this at the elementary level through the PLCs and the coaching work.
So this is an example of when we were talking about the instructional coaches and we talked about our language arts consultants at the elementary level. Beth is an example of that. Their role and responsibility is to really help build the capacity of teachers, and that's why we rely so heavily on their expertise and their knowledge, as well as building their capacity in order to be able to work with teachers on a regular, ongoing basis. Okay, now the picture.
So my office isn't this big, so this bulletin board is actually in another office at Tooten Hill School that is shared by our math science coordinator and our writing social studies coordinator. So last year, we really sat down to think about how do we move this work forward in a meaningful and strategic way without overwhelming an elementary teacher who's responsible for all subject areas. And so we took advantage of the multi-year timeline that we had to work through this initiative. So starting with the work that we had to do just to build capacity around this initiative. So last year was a lot of planning, a lot of skill building, and getting some buy-in from our teachers and getting them to understand the standards and the implications of those standards. So every elementary teacher serves on one of our curricular teams, and they had a field trip across the hall from the meeting that we convene in for our elementary curricular team meetings to this bulletin board, and to take a look at the cards up there are color-coded, so they represent math, reading, and writing. And so the elementary teacher could see what they could anticipate for change over 3 or 4 years. And so this was really important because we talk about the Common Core, we give a lot of lip service to it, but what does it mean? What units will change for me? How will my teaching need to change? And what kind of support will I have to roll this out? So we developed a very comprehensive plan with the involvement of our teachers to build that buy-in so that we could roll out a very meaningful alignment and articulation of our curriculum to these Common Core standards. If you look at the next slide, this is just an example of what you can actually read. Since the bulletin board's hard to see, it's hard to see what's on those cards. But you can see that in English Language Arts, we are working to revise our nonfiction units. And as I said, we're just making them a little bit more rigorous, a little bit more robust, and finding ways that we can rinse and repeat those skills in our content areas in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we're also aligning some argument writing with those units because they go hand in hand. The Common Core requires 3 forms of writing, which is opinion or argument, narrative, and information. And so we have to balance that as well, and we're pairing things up where they really make sense, and they make sense for teachers too. As Erin mentioned, in math, our focus has been on rolling out a revised curriculum in grades K1 and 2 and grade 6, and our middle school is doing some work there as well. But that has been very helpful, not just for the classroom teacher, but also for those who have to provide staff development for teachers to help them take these units and translate them into their instruction. And so it really has to be paced carefully, and I'm pretty proud of the collaborative work that we've done collectively to make sure this is a meaningful and reasonable plan for teachers. And finally, this is another really important document that drives our professional development. As Erin said, she and Sue and I met just recently to look at professional development for next year. We know, because of what's on the bulletin board, what's coming. Teachers know what's coming, and we have to make sure that we can provide that just-in-time professional development for teachers so they can unpack their units of study, they can get the professional development they need so they feel confident in delivering that instruction for their students.
So likewise, and this is similar to what Betsy and Beth have been talking about, our goal around this work at 712 and across K-12 programming is to really build the teacher understanding and expertise around the Common Core state standards. We needed to and have to continue to map the curriculum. We need to continue to create benchmark assessments and end-of-course assessments so that we can mark the progress of our students over time. And we've got to find ways to model and coach our teachers to ensure that they have the knowledge, the skill, and the expertise in which to implement this in the classroom. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to do, and it's not on the PowerPoint, but you have something that looks like this, and it's not the, Tom, what'd you call it? You thought it was the...
NCAA bracket.
It's not the brackets. This is actually, this is hot off the press. We spent the day together at Simsbury High School, 9 through 12, actually 9 through 11, grades 9 through 11. We had teachers from 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade in English, social studies, and science, as well as the department supervisors. Neil Sullivan was there for the day. I was there. Betsy stopped in for the day. Beth was there for the morning. So we had an opportunity, and this is what, it doesn't mean anything to you, but it means a lot to us. This was the first time we took the work that's going on, the units that we're teaching in all of those subjects in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade, and we're looking at the reading anchor standards, the writing anchor standards, speaking and listening, and we mapped this matrix, and it was almost like an auction. At one point, one of the English teachers, John Madonna, goes, "I'll give you this in March, and I'll do this." But this is now our roadmap for our curriculum to say, where does this fall across the year, in which grade level, which content, of where is it going to be taught, citing text evidence, in what subject and what course, and then where will it be continued, where will it be done again somewhere across the year. And so I know we color-coded it, and we really tried to make it so this really ended at 2:30 this afternoon. We're repeating this again at the middle school tomorrow for grades 7 and 8, so we'll have that done. What this did is it broke down the barriers between English, social studies, and science, in the sense that the understanding wasn't just the sense that I have to teach the content, I have to teach English or social studies or science. I have to teach skills, knowledge and understanding. I need to know how to teach these strategies, and I need to know what it looks like when I teach it in English and what it looks like when I teach it in social studies or what it looks like when I teach it in science. And so this is pretty exciting work for us, and great movement with teachers, and now we're bringing more and more people to the table and hoping that their voice will bring it back to classroom teachers as well.
And I just wanted to jump in quickly, and you can just see all the thoughtful planning and work that has gone in to try to make this implementation absorbable for people. And I think probably what some, Tom, you whispered in my ear is, this along with teacher evaluation, and how does that come together and how does that mesh? And we've worked hard to sit firm in our foundation that this is all about best practices,
teaching and
whether
learning.
on the evaluation side or on the curricular side. But we acknowledge that we're challenged by time. To do this the way you want to do it, you need time with teachers in a collaborative setting to get their input to be successful with this. So I think the plan is thoughtful. I think we have a ways to go with to continue to communicate where we are. And when in a budget process we talk about the theme of how do we respond responsibly to reform, and we talk about instructional coaches and the need to have supports in place for teachers, it's because of this layer of detail we're talking about here. And I just think it's a good opportunity for us to bring some attention to that, because we get asked the question of, you are asking to add some positions in a time when you have declining enrollment. What's the rationale for that? The rationale for that is we're faced with a myriad of changes that in order to do them right, and we feel that they are the right changes, but to support people in best practice, we need some resources to do that. So I just wanted to make that point. I didn't
Thank
mean
you.
to jump in.
Yep. No.
Hey, Erin, can I?
Yes.
I see the guide in the bottom
Okay.
right. And I see what the R's mean, but from W on, it's a little vague. Can you?
So W is argument writing, the red. W orange is informational writing. The little r is, now you're going to really challenge my, it's research. And I think it's, there's the blue is the talk, and the other was the speaking, I believe. So it's listening, speaking. So we're really trying to ensure that kids are getting, and what we see, if we went to 9th grade English there, we can see it's pretty heavy at the beginning of the year in September, October, November. Those are what those, at the top of the sheet, September, October, November, what that says.
Yep.
So we actually have to go back and really look at our curriculum and make sure that we're not overloading certain areas. Some of the things that were really very fascinating when we took out we put together a document that showed all of the units that are being taught in each of these areas, and an English teacher who pays attention to his English, they teach the Odyssey around November, and when he looked at the grid in 9th grade, they see that they teach Greece in September. And he's like, why are we not teaching this all at the same time?
That's a great opportunity.
So, those are things we're not telling, we're showing, and they're making their own, conclusions from what they're looking at.
It's a very interesting observation. I like this sheet. Can we have color next time?
I can give you a color one if you like.
Our Bible. This is very.
But this is still on the whiteboard. If you want to go to Simsbury High School D172, it's there. Do not erase.
Did you write it on the whiteboard?
Do not erase.
Oh,
yeah.
So.
At least you got a picture of it. That was smart.
So with the Common Core State Standards, obviously comes a new form of testing.
Did you have a
Well,
question?
and maybe this is jumping ahead, but when you start talking about like 10, 11, how does this work with APs? I mean,
Well, that's a very good question. We posed that at the table today. So what does that look like? And AP curriculum is pretty prescribed and with the expectations. Although when the College Board is going back and taking a look at their courses, they're looking at the standards and they're making some revisions over time as well. So we're not spending an enormous time dealing with our AP courses in the sense that we've got a lot other before they get to the AP. And once the College Board begins to look at it, we will as well.
Well, they're going to be held by the Common Core because it's nationwide.
Correct. Right.
but they're not as fast to move as you people.
Right.
So we are literally in the process of closing up our CMT and CAP boxes and getting them ready to be sent out for scoring, and we have to do it for one more year. But this is a transition time for us because we're also very actively involved in learning as much as we can about the Smarter Balance, which is the next generation of assessment for us here in Connecticut. Approximately half of the U.S. states will be taking the Smarter Balance assessment, which is a national assessment, and the other half will be taking another assessment that's called PARC. Smarter Balance will replace the CMT and CAPT in the spring of 2015. Our current first graders will be the first group of students, that first cohort, who will take the Smarter Balance assessment, and they will have had the foundation in place from kindergarten and first grade all the way to third grade when they'll take that assessment for the first time. The assessment will assess the areas of English language arts, literacy, and mathematics. It's a very rigorous test from what we can see. We've seen some samples. We've seen some pilot questions, right, Beth? And it really measures students' progress towards those career and college readiness skills. So it's a very different type of test. Our students will be taking these tests on the computers. It will be all computer-based, and it's computer adaptive. So it will regulate itself as students are responding to questions. It will either get easier if students are getting quite a few wrong in a row, and it will become a little bit more challenging if students are experiencing a lot of success. So it will give us a true picture of where students are in their ability and capability.
How did they pick who got to take which test? Did the state itself chose Smarter Balance over something else?
Yeah. Yes.
And does science fall into this
That's
at
a
all?
great question. We just got word yesterday from the state that as of right now, there's no intention of the science portion of the CM test going away, and they anticipate that will still be in effect during the 2015 school year when we begin the Smarter Balance assessment. There's a new set of standards coming out, so...
And that will remain paper pencil. That will remain as we currently know.
Science in fifth.
Science, 5th, 8, and 10. Whether they move it to 11 or not, we don't know. We think it will stay in 10.
Yeah.
So
And that'll
along
still be
with-
March? I'm sorry. That'll still be...
Yes.
So the
that's the
assessments
testing
will take
window.
place the last 12 weeks of the school year. So we're actually able to participate in some pilots. The high school participated in a pilot back in November for the Smarter Balance, and Beth's going to talk a little bit about a pilot that we're going to be participating in just a few weeks at Central School. And Beth, I'll let you say a few words about that.
Yeah, I found out that we're part of 1 million students in 6,000 schools that will be participating in this pilot test. We've been chosen, we've been assigned grade 3 math, grade 4 English language arts. The test is really to give information to the consortium, to Smarter Balanced, about their test items. We are not going to get personally any information back on our student performance. However, we feel it's a really important opportunity for teachers. I'm going to be setting up training tests for teachers to take so teachers can actually see what the test looks like and the demands of the test, especially with the technology. I was on it tonight, and we have a lot to learn. And then we feel it's really important for the student piece as well to observe the student behaviors as they're taking the tests, so we can adequately prepare the students and give them the tools they need to be successful on the test as well. So we're going to be doing this in April at Central, and we have plans for other principals to come through, other teachers to kind of cycle through to really get a glimpse of what this will look like.
Can you go back and you mentioned we have a lot to learn. In which way?
The technology, the tools that kids are required to use to take this test are highlighting, are having a split screen going back and forth between the text and writing their answer on another portion of it.
Drag and drop.
Drag and drop. They're really...
The icons, the list is...
Clicking a video link.
Replaying it, enlarging text. They'll probably be better at it than we are, but...
Right.
Right.
We're anticipating.
Are these supposed to be on like touch screens, or is everyone getting a mouse? Or
No,
it's all mouse. It's all mouse driven. So
And they'll have-
So you just need work surface.
And they'll have
even.
earphones the whole way through as well. Students, yeah.
Math on the computer as well, right? So how you show your work.
Well, we've seen some examples of that, and it's very fascinating to see how you manipulate a calculator. And then choose your answer. It's very, very fascinating.
I'm sure good fun.
But as Betsy says, it's hard to tell. Kids are, if it was a phone, they'd do really well at the typing probably. But we have to pay attention, and that's where our technology is going to be really important because it's not a matter of just putting kids on technology at the test time. It's how do we engage students with technology over time so that they're doing those opportunities. They're highlighting, they're dragging and dropping, they're looking at split screens, they're doing those kinds of things. And so that's where our technology is going to be critical for kids as they, especially for third grade. The expectation for third and fourth graders is that they can type one page, which is a pretty big expectation for
Our
kids.
teachers have been pretty diligent about making sure their students are progressing using the Type to Learn software, both in school and at home. And they're making some nice progress. I was watching some third graders type away the other day, and I was very impressed.
That used to be a fourth grade thing.
Yep. Not anymore.
The piece in the technology, because that's very important as we talk about moving forward with our budgets and our technology line item, which
There's been a significant internal assessment we've had to go through about our technology, about our Wi-Fi, about our connectivity and our capabilities, and we've checked out well there. And I think it's now a matter of starting to kind of mock up some of these testing platforms and how we would utilize a testing window and what it would look like to test an entire school and kind of work through the logistics of some of those things, so we're not figuring them out in time when this comes.
And these pilots are helping us figure all of that out and figuring out these pieces of the puzzle.
You have these tests, you said, adapt themselves, so you're looking at a grade across a cohort and potentially no one is taking the same exam.
They're moving at their
They have
pace.
different questions.
And what we don't know yet, for example, the CMT, there's 3 reading assessments, there's 3 math assessments. We don't know what it's going to look like, at how many times, at how many sessions do students have to sit in front of a computer. We don't know those answers yet.
Nor do we know how we'll get the data back and how students will be evaluated. So stay tuned. More to come.
Question, Betsy, or maybe Erin, on this one, on the Smarter Balance Assessment, which is another implementation. On the rigorous tests measuring on this slide here, under little block, rigorous, can you talk a little bit about that toward the college and career readiness?
Well, that's what the Common Core state standards are all about, preparing kids for college and career readiness. And it starts in kindergarten and it moves all the way through. So often we use the marker points as our assessments. We use those as like the end marks. And the Common Core state standards are not intended to be just getting kids ready for the assessment. It's something we pay a lot of attention to because we're scored on that and we are viewed on how well we do. But it's about preparing kids. If we go back to that very first slide, those remediation courses, that kids are not taking remediation courses when they enter college. The kids are entering the workforce with the knowledge, the skills that they need. So the premise behind the Common Core state standards is that we are preparing all kids with college and career readiness skills, those 21st century skills to be able to do the work that's expected of them. So we will continue to talk about the assessments, but I don't want that to be the end-all be-all. We have to pay attention to them, obviously, but it's how do we move our students from kindergarten as they move all the way through 12th grade and prepare for what happens after 12th grade.
And obviously, communication is a really important and critical piece of this whole process. Our principals have been great about writing to parents in newsletters about the work that's happening and describing the Common Core initiatives. Dina Kachadi, who is our elementary math science coordinator, worked with classroom teachers this year for those who were rolling out the revised math curriculum. And so teachers had some district-wide talking points that they could use and adapt in their open house presentations to parents to inform them of some changes. We've also been giving parents some links and resources to help them understand the implications of the standards and the changes to the curriculum, and this parents gave us some great feedback about this. We're looking at surveying teachers to get feedback about our units that we've rolled out. We want to make sure that they're as good as they can be, and if they can be better, we want to know how to do that. So just today, I sent a survey out to our reading curricular team members who will be meeting with their grade level colleagues around the nonfiction unit that they just taught. We want some feedback. We want to come back to the table, look at it, and make improvements as we need to, because this was really a high leverage shift for us. We knew that if we could roll this nonfiction work out, we would get a lot of bang for our buck, because you can see that there's so many skills that are grounded in this nonfiction work that we really need to spread out over the course of the year and not in just one 4-week unit of study. So this communication piece is critical. We're going to be working with Beth and with Martha Hogan and Erin and I to develop a part of our website that will give parents some more information around the Common Core, and that work is in progress. So we're really excited about that.
What is the feedback you've gotten so far from the teachers?
Mixed.
Yeah.
It's been mixed. I think there are people that really understand it and are energized by it, and but challenged by the complexity of trying to pull it all together. And there are others that just are struggling with trying to figure out how to pull it together, especially elementary teachers that are dealing with reading, writing, math, which is a lot. And any change is a big change to a teacher. As I said earlier, I think the conversation we had with our 9/11 teachers was a huge breakthrough today, in the sense of really helping them better understand. But we had 12 people in the room.
Right. That's
it's not 130 teachers in the room. So we've got to figure out. It's like Neil used the example of throwing a pebble in the water, and you get these ripple effects. And so you start small and you move bigger and bigger. So there probably are teachers that you would say are really knowledgeable, and there are teachers that maybe aren't so knowledgeable about
I would
the
find
work.
this very intimidating coming at me, and the expectations to have it done quickly, and I just want to make sure that we support our teachers, because this is just so much so fast.
Betsy, to that point, the feedback loop in creating that, I think, is so important, because we can be thoughtful, and I think we're trying to be thoughtful in our plan, and when we move that on to the teacher and kind of walk away to the next thing and develop, we need to have that opportunity for teachers to come back and say, wait a minute, this isn't working the way we thought it might. And I think, kudos to you and your team for, that may impact our rate of implementation, but at least we know what we put in will be done in a way that works for teachers.
And we really do work, from my vantage point, which is removed from the classroom. Betsy's a little closer than I am, and Beth is really engaged with teachers. So we're constantly trying to get information. For us, it might sound really good, and for a classroom teacher, it's overwhelming and scary.
I think it's like even just teaching students, though. I mean, the key is the pace. It's got to be at a pace that works, or else it will implode.
One of the things
that's even just your individual students. You have to work at their pace, or else whatever you do is going to fall flat.
That's right. And that's why we're really focusing on these high leverage shifts, because you can't do it all, and we know that. And so one of the things that you couldn't see on that bulletin board, but you saw the slash in between the boxes. One of the bottom portion of that box is for the development of the units. So we're developing one year and rolling it out the next. So we are not developing units in October, and here you go, because you're teaching it next week. So we're really spending a year with our curricular team studying it, thinking about the standards, thinking about the implications for instruction, making sure we have the materials to teach the units, providing the training, and then rolling it out formally with teachers.
How often do the elementary schools have PLCs?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
So that will be very helpful.
An hour a week. Yeah.
And I can tell you the conversation has changed. So last year was a little shell shock, and people were just trying to figure it out and use the lingo and understand it. Just yesterday, Beth and I were at a table with our 4th grade teachers who were looking at a new unit that they're thinking about, or that they're actually implementing. And the conversation was so high level. And Erin, I have your iPad here, but I have to put a code, so I can't show the handy-dandy app that we have on our iPads. But there's a great app for the Common Core, and it's quick, and most teachers have it on their iPads now, and they access it. But the conversation was about, do students need to quote in 4th grade when they're writing an opinion piece? And so we pulled out that app, and teachers had great dialogue, because the 4th grade teachers wanted to make sure that they were preparing their kids for 5th grade. So what was the expectation? Do we need to fold it into this unit? So the kinds of questions that they're asking and their involvement is at a whole nother level this year, and it's great to see that growth.
Well, my concern is always that the state can tell us that we have to do all this stuff, but we still have to be successful to our students, and we can't sacrifice our students just because the state tells us something has to be done.
Right. No.
So, we have to do it at the pace that our people can
And
handle.
again, that's why we're trying to.
Well, I'm sorry.
But again, I think that's why we're grounding. You've heard for the last 8 or 9 years the curriculum work that we've been doing. So we created a pretty strong foundation. So preserving what we do and do well, but also
Right.
trying to
That's
figure
important.
out the other pieces that we have to place in that as well. So.
Consistent with the technology here, the complexity at the elementary level, does that kick off a deeper discussion as to how technology is used to allow, once a student is identified as to what's the right thing to work on and pace, to be using technology more with the teacher directing them to the right technologies? That I have to assume that's going to emerge fairly rapidly as an area of increasing expertise.
Right.
Are we looking at that hard? Or?
I think the conversations this year with the Innovation Subcommittee around the different types of technology and how they impact both teaching and how they impact tasks that students are working on, which is one of the reasons we didn't want to just jump in one-to-one device for everybody. Let's really look at the evolution of both the teaching and the tasks. So I know that we hope to come back at the end of this school year in the June meeting, I think, and present to the board about some of those ideas and some of those thoughts that committee will recommend as we start to think about our progression in technology next year for, program development and budget purposes.
Right. Tara brings up a really good point, which is you're really creating much more diverse consulting around students, deeper areas of expertise, deeper skill sets, and the current structure can't accommodate that unless you can increase that capacity through technology or reduce class size. I think that's a really important point to be looking at.
Which is also aligned with the teacher evaluation plan and looking at student learning outcomes and the data that you're collecting around that as well. So that's how these are all interconnected. So I'm sorry.
Are colleges' education programs, are they changing their curriculum to prepare teachers, new teachers, for these kind of changes? That's a great question.
I think they're definitely paying attention to it. Erin and I have had a chance to be in some statewide meetings recently, and there are committees that involve folks from universities and really looking at the pathways for students to make sure that students are prepared. And certainly they're going to be accepting students who are coming with higher level skills, and it's certainly going to require them to make some shifts as well. So they have been at the table and part of these conversations.
But even the teacher prep programs as well. One of the teachers, a young teacher, science teacher today at the high school, was talking about his experience that he's just been through and some of the examples that he was familiar with around this work, maybe versus somebody that wasn't so recent through a program. So yes, teacher prep programs are talking about it, so as well. So just to wrap up, the next steps as we think about this is really paying attention to our implementation plan around curriculum instruction and assessment, providing ongoing professional development, and really looking at the ways in which we can build capacity through coaching, PLCs, through our teaching standards, are really important aspects of this work. One other piece that we have an opportunity to participate in when Betsy and Beth were talking about the state pilot plan. The state is also coming out with a Common Core State Standards practice test, which is not they're not test items that they're piloting for students, but it's actually a practice test to give districts feedback on where you stand on the implementation of the Common Core State Standards. So we'll be doing that. They've given us a window of April through May to engage. We'll be doing it at Terriffill, Tooten, Latimer, the middle school, 50% of the 7th grade, 50% of the 8th grade, and our 11th grade at the high school. And that will give us feedback on how well we're doing with what we just shared with you. So.
And on our technology platform.
And our technology, that's a huge piece.
Important.
Right.
Thank you again for all your work. You've been asked to do a big job, and you guys are, again, jumping right in and going forward fast and being very thoughtful about it. Thank you very much.
So one of the last pieces, Beth is working with myself, Martha Hogan, and Betsy to create a website. We've really been trying to update. We've had a lot of work that we've been doing, and we haven't gotten quite to that yet. But this spring, and these are some of the resources. We'll be putting some narrative on our website, really trying to inform parents and folks about our work around the Common Core state standards.
I think more and more people are getting used to finding these nice nuggets because a lot of the teachers are sending them home saying, you know, if you need help with your math or, you know, these are great tutorials. It's really nice for parents to have these as tools.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you. That was very, very, very informative. And, as you know, the two education reforms, Common Core and the teacher educator administrator evaluation plan, are the two biggest things that are before us and will be. So, all righty, let's move on to exhibit. Where are we? Exhibit 10. Where are we? You're welcome. We are continuing education update, exhibit 10. Thank you, Michael.
So Sue, welcome everybody. Sue is going to introduce our guests for.
Fantastic. So it was just about a year ago that Dave and I presented to the board regarding Department of Continuing Ed and some of the growth and improvements overall that have been happening with the Department of Continuing Ed. And tonight I've invited 3 of the movers and shakers in the leadership of DCE to come really give you a programmatic update specific to some of the work that's happening in our summer program offerings, some of our credit recovery. So Dave will touch upon that this evening. Also, Nikki, our director of SEED, as well as our Children's Academy, which is our preschool program in Simsbury. She'll be presenting on those 2 aspects of Department of Continuing Education. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Cindy Rem, our K-12 Director of Visual Arts, will be presenting specifically about the successes of the Simsbury Arts Academy, otherwise known as SAA. So with that, we'll get started. And I've shared some of these statistics with you before, but I think they're just poignant and really capture the great work that's happening overall with the Department of Continuing Ed and reflective of Dave's leadership in that capacity. We're serving over 5,200 residents of the Simsbury community, and this is the only Department of Continuing Education program in the state of Connecticut where those served outnumber the number of students enrolled in the school system. And that's huge because recently, you'll hear things in recent media of other departments of continuing education that are really experiencing some difficulties, and we're experiencing growth. There's a 58% increase in participation over the past 3 years, and despite the tough economic times that other departments are facing, we continue in that growth. And I think that just speaks to the fantastic work that's being done and specifically led by these 3 individuals this evening. So I'm going to start by asking Dave to just highlight some of those successes.
Okay, I have to digress for a moment too, because before I came over here I stopped by Henry James and saw one of our state mandated courses in action. And I've never seen this. I mean, we normally get a small group, but we got a pretty full class filled with students from at least 6 different origins trying to learn English as a second language. And even our state mandated programs, which are small in comparison to the bigger cities, they're starting to feel this impact of growth, which is, to me, really exciting.
When you say state mandated, you mean that we need to offer it?
Right. They're programs that each community in the state has to offer, GED programs, ESOL programs, those of that nature. I want to talk a little bit about our summer program, and this is probably one of the best kept secrets in Simsbury because it just keeps going on year after year, and people don't realize how large it is. I have 3 summer youth supervisors who handle this program, and every year in a 6-week period we run at least 1,800 students through the various programs, whether they be academic in nature or enrichment in nature. And I just am so proud of what they've accomplished. This summer, we're trying to concentrate on two areas that are probably the areas of biggest potential growth for us, especially in the enrichment and the Learn for Life areas. With the early childhood children, we're doing a collaborative this summer with the Recreation Department over at Central School. We had done something similar to this years ago, and they had to change their pool hours. But now we've worked something out with Jerry Toner so that we can provide a preschool program, and part of the program is tied in with special education to provide services for these children as well. And we're also going to give them some water play time during the course of the program, supervised by the Parks and Recreation
That's
staff.
the little critters.
That's the little
the little critters with water play.
Sound like fun.
And then we have a variety of other programs in both the early childhood and intermediate, and if anybody wants to, I can talk more about them. But the thing that impresses me is that in the past year or two, we're getting more and more of our faculty getting interested and getting involved in summer programs. All of these programs have been created by our faculty as programs that they've identified would be of interest or would help prepare the students for entry into school for the fall. There are a couple on here that I'd like to talk about which aren't on there. Actually, one we just firmed up this past week. It's basically created by two kindergarten teachers. One of them happens to be one of my youth supervisors too, Katie Hanson-Bristol, and another kindergarten teacher at Tooten Hills, Haley Brown. In assessing the needs of kindergarten students, they want to provide a kindergarten preparedness course over at, we're going to do it at a pilot basis at Tooten Hills this fall, or late in the summer, getting the students ready. We started a program similar to this, and they're modeling it after the Henry James program. We have a course called Make It Happen, which runs the week before school starts, and it started out with an idea from a teacher many, many years ago, small little group, 8 to 10 students. Now we run at least 3 sessions of it every August. Last year we had 1/3 of the new 7th graders participate in this program, getting them accustomed to being able to come to Henry James so that the transition for them will be comfortable. And this is what we hope to do with the kindergarten program just before what do they call that program they have? A meet and greet program.
Right,
It'll be
it's
a few
the
days
7th grade
before the
orientation.
meet and greet program. At the secondary level, just to give you some statistics as to basically what we did last summer, we offer both academic and enrichment programs at the secondary level too. In the middle school, we had 19 students who took recovery credit courses, 24 high school students who took recovery credit courses. But the biggest area we've been concentrating on is to help students obtain credit courses during the summer, because with the addition of the requirements for graduation, it's beneficial to them if they can get something in during the summer months. And this past year, we gave out 169 high school credits for students, which alleviated some of their schedules. Most of these are run, all of these are actually run by Simsbury High School teachers and approved classes that we actually had teachers write for the virtual high school. This summer, we hope to pilot. We're it's still in the investigative stages, and I hope we'll get it off the ground. It's an online program that the high school has been exploring, and we think that Simsbury High School students can benefit from this, either for credit purposes or recovery purposes. And if the program is eventually adopted, it gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility to provide credit, to provide courses for students that we couldn't physically afford to run with staff because we just don't have the number of students who could take it. But so we're still in the exploratory stages of that. I do have one final thing that I have to share with you that I'm really excited about. In addition to doing the academics and other things, this past week I got final confirmation from Jack Casey and Carolyn Doty that the Yukon girls will be back again for a camp again this summer. It's the 11th time in a row we've had them here. This is the only camp they do.
Yeah.
The one here in Simsbury.
That's awesome.
And that's a credit to the participation that our kids have. It's going to be around, it's going to start July 15th, so feel free to stop by.
Oh, it's just so amazing.
Friday afternoon is autograph day. You guys can get them too. They're great that way.
Mr. Kroon, would you be willing to look into computer programs for the kids going forward with this new computer or testing?
That's what part of this may help us with, and it's
because the course you have now is more basic than what they're going to need. We need to
right.
You have little summer courses for them.
That's one of the beauties of this program we're exploring, and
that'd be great.
So we have another meeting on a Thursday of this week, and Erin's been involved with this too, and hopefully, I'm excited. I really am.
It has great potential.
So anyhow, I'd like to turn it over to, I guess, Nikki. You're the next slide.
It's been great because one of the greatest joys that I've had this year in my new capacity is actually working so closely with Nikki and the Children's Academy and going over to visit on multiple occasions and being able to read and just see the incredible opportunities for our 3- and 4-year-olds. So, Nikki,
It is. I always say if I'm having a bad day, I just go hang out with the kids, and that always makes me better. So just to give you a little update on where our enrollment is, we're located at Central and at Tooten. We have over 60 children, and it's surprisingly still growing. I actually just got an email from a parent this morning saying, can I still sign up for the rest of this year? So sure. So it's still consistently growing, which I'm really happy about. We have, like I said, over 60 children total enrolled in the program. That does include some students that are receiving preschool through special services, as well as our 10 open choice preschoolers that are participating at Tooten Hill School. So that's been a real exciting, piece that we've added to the program this year. We've also worked very closely with our special educators, as well as Betsy's been huge, helping us with this, with developing the SRBI process, as far as looking at developing interventions for children based on their needs and what they need, both academically, socially, behaviorally, coping skills, all of those things. Really working with teachers to kind of get some interventions in place that can take place in the classroom and really work for all kinds of students and in different ways. One of the biggest things we did was we purchased the nationally recognized curriculum, the creative curriculum for preschool. It is extremely intensive, but I'm happy to say that the teachers love it. They really, really have enjoyed the rollout of this curriculum, and we've kind of gone along again with Betsy's help, kind of going through it as we do it. So it's been a big transition year for the teachers, as well as for me. I'm learning it with them. Basically, the curriculum spans 9 different areas for development and learning. You could see they're listed there, and there's 36 objectives that cover those areas. One of the biggest reasons we wanted to go with this curriculum, we did a lot of research on what curriculum to go with, is because this one is very much in line with the state standards for preschool for the state of Connecticut, and it does a really, really good job of having some really thoughtful instruction to what we teach our preschoolers, but also making it fun for them because they are only 3 and 4. They still play with Play-Doh. It's great. But our instruction, right? It's important. It's important. But our instruction is purposeful and it's thoughtful. It's not just kids running around playing. They think they're playing, but they're really learning. And the teachers are really learning how to be informed in what they're learning. And what activities they're presenting them with so that they can know what objectives they're working towards and also then assessing them where they are and how to direct that future instruction. We also did purchase, again with Betsy's office help, the Teaching Strategies Gold program, which is the assessment program that goes along with the curriculum. And that's really been a great tool for us to kind of provide that seamless assessment that's an ongoing assessment in the classroom, and the teachers are kind of, again, learning that as we roll it out. I'm learning it too. And so we've done a lot of work with them on what that looks like. We just spent, at our last staff meeting, actually, it was a working meeting. They brought all their data. We just completed progress reports that were brand new for the teachers this year. And so they brought that data, and we literally mapped it out. And, the teachers were looking at, okay, as a class, if I have less than 20% that have mastered this skill, then that means I need to do some more whole group with it. If I have, or I apologize, if I have more than 20%. If I have less than 20%, then I need to do some small group activities with just those particular children. So it's really helping to drive instruction. And it's very clear and very planned out, which the teachers have loved. It's been very successful. Moving on to SEED. We're in our 4th year, and probably the biggest thing which is why it's first on the slide, 4 years. When I looked at these numbers about a week and a half ago preparing this slide, I was actually shocked. I mean, I knew we had grown, but when I actually did the math, I was really, really impressed with the team that I've put in place. Our enrollment has increased by 45% since 2009 when we started. Those numbers, the little asterisks, actually are supposed to represent, I think it was as of a week ago Friday, those numbers were. They're changing all the time, obviously. But we had 272 children enrolled across the district. We have our AM program at Squadron Line, and then we have PM programs at all 5 elementary schools. The TerraFill program and Central program did not initially start the first year. They didn't start until 2010. They previously were getting bused to Squadron. We split them out, and they had their own programs in their own school as of 2010. That program has increased by 57% just in 2 years. So it's obviously been a huge need, and we've been able to meet that need, which has really been exciting. One of our goals several years ago that we put in place was to really try to increase collaboration with classroom teachers to make sure that we were, kind of helping, facilitate that seamless day. And one of the things we just got in place this year, we work with Dina Cacciati, and she was able to get my staff math resource books so that when they're helping students during homework time with math, they can actually have the resource materials in front of them, so that, because a lot of the ways that my staff learn math is not how the kids are learning math now. And so it really helps them with kind of teaching them the same way and being able to reinforce those skills in the same way. We've also been able to offer financial aid for tuition for those that are eligible, and it's in line with the eligibility requirements within the district that the district uses for lunch as well. One of the biggest programs we've done is Global Arts, so I'm going to pass that to Cindy. That's been a collaboration with SAA.
Yes, it is. And it's our 3rd year, and after thinking a lot about how it's been, our Global Art program, Nikki and I decided we'd change the way instruction was delivered this year, and we're very, very happy with it. We went to an instructional coach model, and the reason for that was to really sustain the program, to make the program of Global Arts systemic within the SEED organization, and to provide really essential PD for the site managers.
Mm-hmm.
And they've enjoyed it. With facilitation, there's the woman there in the top right-hand corner, that's Catherine Ann O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
She's absolutely
She's
wonderful.
fantastic. She's
Fantastic.
fantastic.
I hope you're watching TV, Catherine Ann.
Kids love her too. The kids love her. We love her and the kids love her.
Yeah, she's a newly certified art teacher, and what she does is she provides learning resources, and she models the lessons for the site coordinators. Then she comes and facilitates the first lesson or a lesson that she may be called upon to help a little aspect of it. So this year the children have traveled to Africa and Egypt and China, Brazil, India, and Mexico. So that's quite a few countries. We are looking forward to the rest of the year and utilizing a very generous open choice grant to expose all of our children to Latin music and rhythms with Ed Fast, who was, I think some of you know him, but he was our jazz clinician for Townwide Jazz. He's a well-known percussionist. He's known nationally. He has a group called Congo Bop, And Ed has been a Simsbury Arts Academy Master Teaching Artist. He's been with me since inception. So we will do an assembly at each school, so all the children get to see the assembly, and then after school at each site, with our own music educators, he and the music teacher will be doing workshops with the percussion instruments and the rhythm instruments. Right. So we're on to the next side. So, the core Simsbury Arts Academy. Okay, so absolutely continuing the tradition of providing year-round exemplary programs in music, art, drama, and dance. Our biggest program is in the summer. We have two divisions. A primary division will meet at Tooten Hill School for 3 one-week sessions starting July 6th. Our big academy will still be held at Simsbury High School. We load in on Monday of that July 6th week, so it actually starts on Tuesday, and it's 3 intensive weeks, and we focus on jazz, strings, musical theater. We're performing Seussical, the musical, Seussical Junior. That's the body of literature the children will be studying, and a very big visual art component. And then we have a section of the academy where students get to elect across arts disciplines. Our Simsbury core faculty continues to be experienced artists, educators. Some fun facts for you are that 100% of the visual art educators in Simsbury are or have been master teaching artists with Simsbury Arts Academy. 100% of our strings teachers have been. 100% of our directors of music and performing arts, Chris Tranberg and Angela Griffin, have been or are teaching faculty. So certainly that is a credit to the fact that Simsbury Arts Academy is woven into our core program. And it's the day ends, but the learning doesn't stop us for certain youngsters who can't get enough of this. We continue to attract faculty from universities, from our neighboring communities. For example, our head of theater education at Avon High School will be on staff with us this summer, and from our distinguished practicing artists in our community. Last year I reported that since inception we had serviced about 550 students. Not counting this upcoming summer, that number is much closer to 800 now. And for example, in the fall, it's true that our enrollment increased 150%, so that's pretty exciting. The program actually does strengthen the core arts areas, the linkage between, musical theater for students to gain confidence and more opportunities to be on stage. It's been very favorable. We ran a very successful workshop at Henry James School in the fall. This summer, I'm going to build upon what seems to be attracting students the most these days, fashion design. Very huge. We are an award-winning school district in fashion design. I mean, best in show. We don't have a fashion design course. It's true. Do we teach design? Absolutely. It's infused in the fine and applied arts all the time. However, the interest is there, and our teachers just take it on, bring it on. We will be offering Apple technology this summer for music composition. We're going to try that.
Oh, wow.
We're going to be very purposeful about looking at the end of the rainbow for studying the arts and building opportunities for students to enhance their portfolios a great deal. For example, you know about our pottery courses and our awards in pottery and who our pottery, Vicente Garcia, our pottery master teacher, is. But we want to do courses in experimental clay and really expose kids to these kinds of things that we don't have time or maybe even the expertise to teach right now at the high school. These young ladies, this is a new initiative, these kids participated in a new class that I offered, a special topics course in an introduction to elementary art education. The students studied content with me about, the artistic development of children, about creativity, about what art teachers have to do to create a meaningful, purposeful lesson. They had guests come to visit us. 3 of the art department faculty provided master classes for them in materials. One teacher materials, another teacher technology, another teacher about literacy connection. The students visited all of the elementary schools in teams and interviewed the art teachers and helped in the classroom. We taught a very successful Saturday morning art workshop through SAA, so this was a Simsbury High School, Simsbury Arts Academy collaboration, and had 18 students who are enrolled kindergarten through grade 3. I have a poster, some nice quotes you can read at some time from parents and from the students. The parents did not want it to end at all. They really wanted us to continue through the spring, but some of you know these kids very well. And they're seniors. It's spring.
It was Saturday morning early.
It was Saturday morning. We had our bagel and our Starbucks.
But the kids did love it. I mean, the kids didn't, there was part of them that didn't want it to end. They really did connect to the little ones.
Especially Tara's daughter, Taylor was one of our interns, and she just loved it when she got to look at her pictures and wanted to talk about her pictures that she took of all the kids all the time. So when she was away from it and then she took out her pictures, she loved that. So, so certainly we don't want that to end. Mr. Sullivan does not want it to end, and I don't think it has to. Oh, this is just, this was the first time I actually registered Simsbury Arts Academy as a school of the Simsbury public school system. Why not? It is. It's us. So these are some students who were recognized, big awards, Gold Key Portfolio Awards. 2 of them, $160,000 worth of scholarships, by the way, for those 2 students, for those pieces, which in part were made during the academy. And 2 of those pieces, the dress and the little bit of film, the cover of the CD up there, are middle school award winners. First time for fashion design, middle school. First time for film, middle school. So very proud, very happy. I love it. Thank you.
You should be proud. We're proud. This sounds great.
There's a lot to celebrate with Department of Continuing Ed, and I just want to emphasize the leadership, particularly of these 3 individuals here, have truly made it happen for kids beyond the school day and beyond the school year.
Absolutely.
How these programs have rounded out the experiences for kids. So thank you so much for all your continued efforts and your vision. Thank you.
And I'll just add, I mean, this is in 4 years, the 57% increase in the extended day program at Terraville is really huge. It's really huge. It's very big.
Yeah.
It's no one thought when we started the program 4 years ago that we would get to be that point. And also, I'll tell you, wherever I go, they talk about Simsbury's preschool program, and I was asked at several places, is it a private program? Because the Children's Academy of Simsbury Preschool Program is very noted around the state. We are the only district that has a program such as this, and it is very noted. It's it's deemed as a pilot program through the State Department of Education. So every time they talk about this, and I have to dispel the rumor that it is not a private program. It is run through Simsbury Board of Education, and it is open for students. So I have to commend you because it is one of the top programs that other districts hope to be able.
Great team to work with. So
Thank
it's
you.
been huge.
Thank you. So good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your work.
All righty. Okay, we will. Sit down. All right, we will now move on to our second public audience. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the board? Seeing none. And Thank you, Mr. Kulakowski, for joining us this evening. He's sitting there patiently back there, so thank you. Thank you. Very good. I just would, for future business, I just want to mention in your folders, when we were talking about Common Core, there will be a workshop about Common Core state standards, what boards of education members, superintendents, and members of business community must know. It will be Tuesday, April 2nd at Octoturf in Plantsville. So if you're interested in attending, register, and it's presented by Kate and the GE Foundation and the Connecticut Council for Education Reform. So if you're interested in attending, it's going to be a very worthwhile conference. So, all right. With that, I'd like to have a motion to move into executive session, and we're going to executive session to include Mr. Curtis and Ms. Lemke to discuss a confidential pupil matter. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And